Hey everybody, welcome to another The Pagemaster with me, The Pagemaster. We're going to be taking a page out of a book. You know the deal. It's going to be something to do with movies. I'm going to give you a little insight into maybe a sequel that didn't happen, or a spin-off, or the ideas of scripts that never got developed. Today we're going to be talking about Phantasm, specifically Phantasm's End, the movie that didn't happen. For those of you who maybe are unfamiliar with Phantasm, I highly recommend you check it out. There are 5 movies currently in the franchise. The first came out in 78 or 79, I want to say. Features the Tall Man as your main sort of pinhead, Freddy, iconic character, evildoer. He's a character, maybe a demon or an alien from another dimension, and he's here harvesting our dead bodies out of cemeteries, putting them through some sort of process that is like making their bodies harder and more compressed, turning them into an army of these weird dwarves. You might remember or have seen some of the classic elements of it, like the silver ball with the blades that onto someone's head and then everywhere. Definitely a highlight of the series. There are a few main characters throughout the series, but the main one is Reggie, who drives the ice cream truck and is iconic for wielding the quad-barrel shotgun. Probably the most important part about all of the Phantasm movies, and germane to this particular video, is director, writer, creator Don Coscarelli being at the helm of all of them. Well, let's talk about sequels. The second one wasn't able to retain the lead cast star. I think that was a studio decision that forced out the character to Baldwin, but not the Baldwin that you're thinking of, and recast him as somebody else. That's sort of a discrepancy, I think, that a lot of fans don't really like, but the movie is no slouch. The movie kicks ass. Definitely progresses things. The third movie is pretty good, and the fourth movie was a compromise, which is going to tie directly into what we're talking about today. The other element that's going to come together for the story is Roger Avery, who you might recognize the name of as a collaborator of Quentin Tarantino's. Won an Academy Award with Quentin for Pulp Fiction and writing that story with him. Worked at the video store with Quentin for many, many years. He's a huge fan of Phantasm, and after getting his Academy Award win, and there were all these calls from everybody wanting to work with him, anything you want to do, what do you want to write, do you want to whatever, he thought he would take his good luck and turn it into something really great by contacting Don Coscarelli and seeing if he could write the script for what would be, at the time, the 4th Phantasm movie. Now, obviously, that doesn't come to pass, otherwise I'd have nothing to talk about for this segment, and they end up going to do Oblivion. And Oblivion, what you need to know about it is that it takes outtakes from the first movie and films new stuff, and then cuts between time sequences, giving you different angles that you never saw from the first movie, which in some ways is really, really cool, and in other ways is frustrating because you can feel that they're being hampered by a lower budget. Now, let's talk briefly about my introduction to Phantasm and Phantasm's End. In 2001, when I was 21, I found this copy of Cinescape. It is the A to Z guide to Halloween horror. Right? This thing was fantastic. Being 21, just getting into movies, not really knowing everything. I've held on to this thing for 20 years because it still is like a primer for all the things in the horror world. It gave me new insights into separating all of the zombie movies, the Romeros from the Return of the Deads, what the differences are there, and a host of other things. And I was introduced to Phantasm for the very first time, which I had never heard of before. After reading the articles in here, I actually saw it at an HMV, picked up the first one, and became a fan. The first 4 movies were already out, and I'm just going to put up on screen here, but they had an article called The Phantasm That Never Was. This outlined the basic idea of this Phantasm's End movie, which never came to pass, and it always stuck in my head for years and years and years, and it's only, as you could see, like 3 paragraphs, until in 2017, Rue Morgue put out this really cool, authorized Phantasm film companion. It's kind of like more like a magazine, but it's sort of a book, right? It's not staple bound and everything, and it's fantastic. And it has an interview with Roger Avery where he discusses the details of Phantasm's End, and I'm just going to read some of that to you now. So the idea I had was, we're now in an accelerated future, ahead in time in a world where the tall man has proliferated. It's caused this disease called the bag plague. When you became infected, your head begins filling with that yellow pudding that we see in other Phantasm movies. Big bag of pus, and it pops, and you get touched by any of it, you get the bag plague, and it's incurable. Their brains just go because they're filled with pus, and they just kind of wander around mindlessly in herds. Dawn said, "You should call them baggers." I'm a huge fan of Dawn of the Dead, so to me, the idea of this epic horror movie like that was just delicious. They're zombie-like, but they're not really zombies, because it's more of a contagion film. If one of them gets agitated, it's like Bagger gone berserk, becoming a little crazy, and then its head expands and explodes, and the stuff sprays everywhere, and chunks of scalp can cut through protective clothing and armor, things like that, so they're highly dangerous. The idea was that because of this plague, the United States has walled off the Bible Belt and everywhere in the Midwest. We now exist as this kind of three-state country of the West Coast, the East Coast, and then the plague zone in the middle. You can go in, but you can't come out. That's just how it is. If you're tired of your life, or you're running away from something, maybe you're a criminal or steeped in debt, you can kind of cash in and your life ends. You can go to the gate to the plague zone and literally kind of turn in your citizenship and enter. It's like the Wild West. You can go make your way in the plague zone. You can start anew and just try to avoid the plague, so people do occasionally do it. Other than the fact that it's filled with baggers, what most people don't know is that the tall man and his minions are there as well. At the very top of the film, we learn several things. One, we learn that Reggie's about to cash in. He's in the ice cream truck and he's going to the plague zone because he wants to find Michael and Jody. So he cashes in at the very beginning and drives in. Then we learn about S Company, the suicide group of commandos who are dropped into things and are never expected to survive whatever mission they're on. They're always put in a suicide mission, so they're super hardcore. I wrote several characters. I wrote one for Tom Savini, who was a friend. I wrote a character for Bruce Campbell. He was supposed to be the leader of S Company. Basically, with the intel that the United States has, they've now figured out who's caused the plague, and that it's an interdimensional creature who has a portal to another dimension, and we kind of learn in a very vague way what's going on. They say, "This is the plan. We want you to take this device, the quantum bomb." The quantum bomb was based on the ultimate nullifier, a device which was used in the Fantastic Four comics by the Silver Surfer to stand down with Galactus. So I had this idea of the ultimate nullifier, this bomb that would destroy everything in the universe, would consume all matter and antimatter, and lead everything into a great null. So they've developed this bomb, but never tested it. They're going to give it to S Company. S Company will go into the plague zone, locate the tall man in Paradox Valley in Utah at the Great Mormon Mausoleum, which he's using. It's the biggest museum in the Midwest. Go into the bowels of it and find the dimensional gate. Go through the dimensional gate and detonate the quantum bomb on that side, which will destroy that dimension, consume that dimension, that reality. So S Company goes in, we follow them a little bit, and it turns out they are completely unprepared for the chaos of the plague zone. But after a number of Phantasm films, Reggie, as it turns out, is perfectly prepared to deal with it and ends up saving the remnants of S Company and kind of becomes their leader. And they have a bunch of misadventures with Dawn of the Dead-like swarms of baggers in the streets of empty cities and whatnot. The scene in Oblivion on Hollywood Boulevard with the tall man walking the empty streets was meant to be foreshadowing Phantasm's end, and Reggie's the one who ends up going in and attempting to detonate the Q-bomb. Of course, the Q-bomb, which has never been tested, doesn't actually work, and Reggie has to figure out a different way to destroy the tall man. So there you go. Pretty good rundown of Phantasm's End. I wish we got it. I wish someone would make an animated version of it. I wish somebody would make a graphic novel version of it. Get someone like Kyle Hotz. Dude, that's a good idea. Alright, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much. Show your support with the follows, the comments, the likes, wherever the buttons are. Do the thing that needs to be done. I very much appreciate it.